Kat mentioned, I do like to see a lot of participation. We've got some activities. So just a quick little tutorial here. So in the chat box, when you click on that and you expand it, in the to box, you have a drop down menu option. So to make sure that I'm seeing it, you would need to have presenter or host and presenter or all attendees selected, or even everyone. So if you select everyone, then everybody who's participating gets to see your question or your comment. If you just want me seeing it and not everybody else, I would say use the presenter or the host and presenter. So make sure you have that showing in that to box. Otherwise, a lot of the comments go to our host and I don't get to see them. So just a little heads up on that. So I am excited. Thank you all for joining me. This is the last session of our Foundations of Coordinating Employment Supports. And just to give us a little recap for what's happened in the previous two sessions. So session one really focused on why it's important to focus on employment. And really, if you remember from that discussion, it's about treating people with disabilities the same as we treat all individuals. So we all have hopes and dreams. Work benefits all of us in so many different ways. For many of us, it's that financial capacity to live the lives that we want to live, to have money to pay for our homes, to pay for our cars, to provide food for ourselves. But it's also part of that giving us purpose, getting to feel like we're contributing, that we have something of value to offer and it's being recognized through our employment. It's also gaining in skills. So many of us, we've learned so much through our own employment, different things that we have to do. It allows us to gain in skills, allows us to grow. So the personal satisfaction from that growth, the personal satisfaction we get from doing the jobs that we like doing, having that valued role, that financial benefit of working, that's all part of why we work. And what work means for us. And again, it's about treating people with disabilities the same as anybody else. We all have hopes, we all have dreams, we all have abilities. And it's helping individuals kind of connect their abilities, their goals, their dreams to what they can be doing with work, and ensuring that we're connecting them to the supports they need to make that a reality. And I see there is a question in the chat about House Bill 432, which passed last year, and how that affects our advocacy for community and integrated employment. And unfortunately, I'll have to go look up that bill to see exactly how it can be addressed. So I don't, or how it's worded to see how it affects advocacy. So I apologize for not being up to date and as familiar with House Bill 432 right off the top of my head. But I will look that up and get back with you guys on that. So talking about state and federal initiatives that we addressed during session one. So during session one, we talked about how Olmstead is being applied to employment. And that Olmstead really is about individuals being able to access needed supports in their communities, not having to choose between community or congregate or segregated setting. So being able to get the supports they need in the activities that they're doing in their community. Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act really set that bar. So it basically stated that competitive integrated employment is the goal, that everyone should be striving for. And it also aligned funding and resources to kind of help achieve that goal as well. With the home and community-based settings rule, basically, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is stressing that the use of Medicaid funding to help individuals through those home and community-based waivers really should provide integration into the community, individual choice, individual rights, autonomy, choice regarding services and providers, and be person-centered planning. And part of that person-centered planning is meaning that the services and supports we are connecting people to are based on actual assessed need. So again, it's going beyond and basically saying, hey, why does this person need this service or support? And it's basing it on actual need and how that person actually is able to achieve that goal. So employment first. Our employment first policy declared that employment in the general workforce is the first and preferred outcome. Again, it doesn't mean that it's the only outcome or that we can't utilize other segregated options if needed. It's just saying, hey, this is what we should be looking at first and seeing how it's going to work. With our Empowering Through Employment initiative, it was really designed to increase awareness of our employment services, to make sure that everyone's aware that we do have funding, we do have services to help individuals achieve their employment outcomes. So more options, more opportunities for individuals. And then in session 2, we really took a deeper dive into what those options and services are for individuals. So we made sure that you all are aware of those employment services that the division funds. So looking at what each of those services is intended to do, who would make a good candidate for that, and what we need to include when we request those services, the information we need to include. So if you remember from that session, career planning is there to help individuals explore what their vocational interests and abilities are, and to possibly identify some job matches that would be things that they could kind of shoot for. Also in career planning, that service is intended to really lay the ground or the roadmap, so to speak. So it's not only saying, hey, here's what makes a good job match for this person, but it also identifies what are those next steps? What are the things that need to happen for this person to get in that type of position? Pre-vocational services is designed for those who really need to refine or develop some of those universal workplace behaviors to be more successful. So individuals who are really kind of stuck and not able to make any progress because they need to work on some skills first. Job development is there to help individuals connect with that paid employment. And then that support employment is designed to help support them in that job. So either acclimating to that new job or maintaining that employment over time. So, and new this year, benefits planning has been developed to help one explore and achieve their financial self-sufficiency. So it's designed to help individuals understand the options and also how they can utilize those work incentives to be more financially self-secure if they want to. So now for today, my goals for you all is that when you leave this afternoon, you're going to have more confidence in being able to have those employment-related discussions, no matter what the person's age or readiness for employment is. Also want you to gain some strategies for discussing employment-related goals, preparing those young individuals for work, and addressing those potential barriers. And then finally, I hope that when you leave, you have a few more resources that you are aware of to help individuals achieve those employment outcomes. So now let's talk about kind of a visual representation of where individuals are going to fall when we're looking at their readiness for employment or their interest in employment. So this is a graphic that was developed in Oregon, and I think it does a really great job of kind of explaining where people might fall just kind of naturally if you think about it. So there at the bottom left, you know, it's the individual who's like, I'm not ready. I don't want to think about employment yet. So for those individuals, you know, it can be that maybe they're too young for employment, or again, there's just no interest in employment right now. So we keep talking about employment. And then up to the left a little bit more are the individuals who are like, yeah, I'm getting there. I need to work on a couple of things first. I need to develop these skills, or I need to get this degree. I need to do this first before I'm ready to go look for that job. So it's individuals who have expressed an interest, who've said, yes, I want to get employed, and they're working on that game plan to become employed. They're just developing some skills first. And then over to the right a little bit, you've got the people who are like, yes, I'm looking for a job, haven't found one yet, but I'm actively seeking a job. And then at the bottom right, it's the individuals who have obtained that employment. They've got that job. They are working. However, as you all know, our jobs don't stop there, because just like with us, every now and then we're going to assess our satisfaction in our current employment. Are we where we want to be? What's the next step? You know, what's next in our lives? So again, it's the same thing with individuals with disabilities. Doesn't matter whether we have a disability or not. Are we affording individuals that opportunity to examine their satisfaction with their employment, or to decide to move on, to take the next step? So to make sure we're all kind of on the same page, let's talk about some terms here. So types of employment: competitive integrated employment. So this is earning minimum wage or better, whatever that prevailing wage for that industry might be. It's integrated with coworkers who may or may not have disabilities. It's providing individuals with the same opportunities to advance as others within that industry. It can be independent without any supports, or it could be supported. So individuals may need some supports, and that support may be one-on-one individual, or it may be in a small group, so like a 1-to-4 ratio. So employment can also be self-employment. And again, with self-employment, it could be independent without supports, or it could be supported self-employment, meaning they've got some supports to help them with that. And then the other type of employment is sheltered employment. So sometimes what we see with some individuals, that may make the most sense for them. So that is an option, and it is a type of employment that we need to consider. So now let's talk about some possible barriers to working. And the first one here, I put in quotes, unrealistic, because the way I look at that is sometimes when we see something as an unrealistic vocational goal, it just means we don't quite understand it yet. So I kind of use an example that I heard years ago with an individual who was in high school taking self-contained classrooms. So, and the the self-contained classrooms that this individual was in followed basic functional type curriculum. So this person was learning how to do laundry, how to fix simple meals, how to tell time, how to count money. So again, you kind of think of those basic um, activities of daily living type of skills, and that's what this person was working on in high school. However, during this person's IEP, this person kept saying that he wanted to become a pharmacist. So everyone on that IEP team, with their own knowledge of what they understood a pharmacist to do and the qualifications of being a pharmacist. So the college education required to become a pharmacist. Everybody was kind of looking at this and going, this is an unrealistic goal. You're taking functional type skills, but being able to succeed in college and take college level chemistry and algebra and all these different um, requirements for becoming a pharmacist, as everybody understood it, they were like, this is just going to be, that's just unattainable. Luckily, somebody on that IEP team decided to step back and say, you know what, let's find out what it is, why you want to be a pharmacist, what attracts you to being a pharmacist. And this young man said, well, I like to count things and I like wearing a white coat. So his understanding of what a pharmacist was somebody who counted things all day long and got to wear a white coat. So once that piece got known, once everybody in that IEP team understood that is what this person was attracted to, all of a sudden they could start thinking of all these different jobs where this person could count things, wear a white coat if he wanted to. It just wasn't actually becoming a pharmacist. It was going to be some other job title, but it was going to be doing the same things that that individual was drawn to, what that individual wanted to be able to do. So again, I think sometimes if we find out what attracts that person to that particular goal, it can help open up different doors that we can actually help that person with achieving that type of goal. Sometimes what we find is what the individual is talking about is really what they want. So for an example, individuals that want to be video game designers. So sometimes in trying to figure out what attracts them to that, that's exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about wanting to be able to design a video game. So I think sometimes that's where we might want to take advantage of some online resources such as Mo Connections or ONET. And what you'll notice on this slide, I do have the links for both of those websites on this page so that you can click on that. So those can help us kind of take a closer look at what a job might actually look like, the requirements for getting into such a position. MODD's, the Missouri Developmental Disability Council's Career Planning Guide is also a very useful tool at trying to figure out what kind of job tasks, what kind of experiences an individual has, what, again, what kind of job tasks they might be interested in doing based on their own experiences and interests themselves. It can also be useful in helping individuals kind of identifying people they know in different positions to learn more. So, and then from there, possibly doing informational interviews or job shadowing. I Years ago, also, one of our service providers had told me about a story where she was helping an individual who wanted to be um, part of designing those movies. So Zootopia had just come out, and the individual wanted to be one of those computer graphics designers and working on an actual movie. So uh, luckily for this employment specialist, she had gotten connected with somebody who worked for Disney and was actually involved in the development of the Zootopia movie. So this employment specialist was able to uh, schedule an informational interview between the individual that she was helping to support with getting a job and the person who worked for Disney, and connected those two. And basically, this person was able to hear it directly from somebody who did the job day in, day out. And what this person heard, was that, yeah, you might be working on these movies, but you may be doing um, leaf design. So that may be all that you work on. So you may not be working on the main character and the how that main character moves. You might be working on a background set and just spending all your time at developing the pixels for a leaf, so to speak. And this person also said that the hours were all over the place. This person had just gotten done with work, was going to have about a 4-hour break, and then had to go back to work. So also hearing that the hours were all over the place like that really helped the person to be like, hey, do I really want this type of job? Is that really going to align with what's best for me and what I know about myself? Um, so um, and sometimes to do those informational interviews, job shadowing, we might be utilizing career planning to help those individuals kind of identify what makes that good job match for them. So lack of transportation. Transportation is one that we hear all the time is a barrier. So Mo Rides is a wonderful resource for individuals to find out about the available transportation options in one's own community, to kind of help them identify what might be the most cost effective for them and what's going to help them with being able to get where they need to go when they need to go. So if we feel like someone's not ready for VR, maybe we're needing to connect them to pre-vocational programs to help them develop those universal workplace behaviors that are going to be needed for all types of employment. Sometimes it might be connecting somebody to a sheltered workshop. Sheltered workshops, we know that they can be working on those skills while also earning some money at the same time. So sometimes sheltered workshop might make the most sense for helping somebody develop some skills to be more ready to work with VR in the future. However, there's also the employment services through our waiver funding. So all those services that we talked about last time in our last session. So if someone has a fear of losing benefits, again, new this year, we now have the benefits planning service. So it might be connecting somebody to a benefits specialist through our waiver funding. However, it could also be connecting that person to a work incentive planning assistance program, a WIPA provider. Some individuals, they don't need a lot. They don't need that in-depth assistance with understanding their benefits and the options before them and how to utilize those work and such. Some individuals just need a little confirmation. Just need to make sure that, okay, I've got supplemental security income, so I know as my work income goes up, my SSI should go down, right? I just want to confirm that's what's going to happen when I go to work. So for some individuals that just need that confirmation, or just need a little bit of support, it might be just helping them to access DB 101. So now let's talk about when people are not ready for work. And real quickly, I'm going to check the chat box to make sure I am not missing anything. So I see in the chat box, somebody had mentioned about using life course planning tools, such as the integrated STAR or the reciprocal roles, when approaching possible employment. And yes, those are some great tools that can help have those discussions around employment. So, and that is one of the resources we've put into this PowerPoint, is being able to tap into those life course tools to help have discussions. So great suggestion there. Love it. Okay, so now when people are not ready for work, so again, the too young, the individuals that are under the age of working, we want to be talking about their interests. We want to be setting the expectation that these individuals are going to grow up, they're going to enter the workforce at some point in their life. And that's the normal, what everybody experiences. So we want to be talking about their interests. We want to be asking them what they want to be when they grow up. We want to be talking about those activities that help develop independence, responsibilities, interpersonal skills, decision making. So we want to be encouraging all those type of activities. We want to be connecting individuals and their families to opportunities that develop those skills. So not just opportunities that are only for individuals with disabilities, but looking at what opportunities are available to all children. So looking at what schools provide, what's that school environment like? What's that school environment providing? What are those opportunities? What about other opportunities that are available to all children? So we're talking about Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, clubs, sports teams, all of those different things, and going, okay, how can this individual take advantage of those opportunities as well? And it's also tapping into those programs that are developed for individuals with disabilities as well. So again, it's kind of like that well-rounded foundation. You want to look at all the possibilities, and then that way that individual, that family can determine what's going to make the most sense for them. So when it's fears or barriers as to why a person's not interested in employment, we need to take a closer look at what that fear or that barrier is. We need to find out what's preventing them. And then we need to address that fear or that barrier. So it could be in providing education. So for example, individuals that aren't interested in employment because they're afraid of what could happen to benefits, it might be connecting them with a benefit specialist that then is able to provide that education to them. So being able to answer those questions and help them navigate those waters. Problem solving those solutions to barriers. So for example, when we talk about employment or transportation, if transportation is a reason why somebody is not working because they're saying, hey, I don't have any transportation, are we actually helping them to figure out what transportation options are available to them and how they can use those different options. So sometimes it's as simple as talking about the pros and cons of working. Again, working isn't just about providing financial means. Working provides so much more. Skill development, um, belonging to the community, feeling of self-worth, um, being able to increase our circle of friendships and people we know and people we interact with. So again, talking about those pros and cons of working, and then connecting work to interests. So one of the stories that I've heard from some support coordinators recently is how they were able to get somebody interested in employment uh, just by responding to a personal goal that a person had. So one of the individuals on this particular support coordinator's caseload said that he wanted to be able to get a guitar, and not only did he want to be able to have a guitar, he wanted to be able to play that guitar. So again, this person was not talking about work. And of course, if the support coordinator even asked this person, hey, do you want to work? This person was probably telling her, no, I'm not interested in employment. Don't want to work. However, the fact that this person wanted a guitar and wanted to be able to play the guitar, support coordinator started asking questions of, well, how are you going to afford this guitar? All of your income is going to meet your living expenses. So your available income is paying for your rent, paying for your food, paying for your phone. You don't have anything left over to afford a guitar. So how are you going to do that? And then also with playing guitar, it's like, how are you going to learn how to play a guitar? Do you know anybody that plays guitar? And of course, this person didn't know anybody personally who could teach him how to play guitar. So, again, support coordinator just kind of asking those questions. Well, how do you see yourself learning how to play guitar? And this person's like, well, I figured I'd have to get some guitar lessons. I'd have to go somewhere and have somebody teach me. Well, is that going to cost? And this individual's, well, yeah, I guess it is going to cost. So just like the questions about how are you going to afford getting a guitar, it also became, well, once you have a guitar, how are you going to afford the lessons? So the support coordinator was able to introduce the concept of employment through that person's interest in getting a guitar and learning how to play the guitar, and help that person to see that that person really needed to have some extra income, and that the only way that person was going to get some extra income was through employment, that that person had to almost get a job to be able to have that extra income to go out and afford that guitar, and then also afford the lessons to learn how to play the guitar. So again, connecting those work to interests, and then don't be afraid to utilize career planning to help somebody explore. So sometimes talking is not enough. Sometimes people need to go out and experience and see it for themselves, for it to connect with them and for them to see the possibilities. So now this tool on your screen, and it's probably very small. You probably can't read it. So real quick, if you take your mouse over to the left side of your screen, you should see a little magnifying glass that becomes available. So there's one that's a plus that allows you to kind of enlarge what you're seeing on the screen. And then of course the minus takes you back out. So you can click on that plus to kind of zoom in and have a better chance of reading. However, also I know that if you go to our website, we do have this tool posted on our website, and you can download it and print it off or save it on your computer so that you have it for future discussions with individuals. So what we did with this tool is, one, we broke it down by age range. So right now on your screen, you're seeing preschool age. So what we really want to do with the preschool age is we want to look at what were those opportunities for those that are under that age of 5 or 6 years of age. They're not quite in school, they're in preschool. And what are those opportunities that families naturally provide young children, as well as what do schools, so those preschool programs, those daycare programs, what do they naturally provide young children with? And then as support coordinators, what can support coordinators be providing that individual and that individual's family with to help that youth really develop those interpersonal skills? So, and again, what you'll notice, we've got 3 different columns here. So activities to really develop that independence and responsibility in that young child. In the middle, kind of what experiences and opportunities for young children to develop those decision-making skills. And then over to the right, those interpersonal skills, those getting along with other people type skills. So again, kind of looking at this, naturally, again, young children, that expectation that you're going to pick up after yourself. So you play with toys, you got them out, you need to put them away where they belong. Again, young children, they start getting encouraged to try and put on their clothes themselves. They may not be perfect. Parents may need to go in and fix things or even help out, but it's the expectation that that child is somehow participating, somehow trying to help out, trying to get dressed, trying to attempt simple hygiene tasks, maybe even possibly helping out with some household tasks. You think of the mommy and daddy's little helpers. So, putting the silverware on the table, carrying something to the table or carrying something away from the table. Of course, young children, they start playing dress up. In school, they're having to be responsible for their own belongings. They might be gaining some independence with using the restroom. They might have to be making decisions about who they play with or what activity they do from a choice of activities. So, of course, interpersonally, having to get along with classmates, having to follow directions, having to handle the criticism, adhering to the word no, having respect for those in authority. And as support coordinators, we want to encourage those families to provide those everyday experiences for that young child. So having that child have simple chores, helping out around the house. We might be providing families with parenting resources if needed. We're going to encourage that family to have that child be making some decisions. So providing that child with choices and having that child choose between some options. We might even be asking that very young child for some input in their ISP. What do you like to do? So interpersonal skills, we're going to connect those families to resources, those opportunities for social and recreational activities. And again, maybe helping connect families to resources in order to be able to access those opportunities. So now let's practice. Blake is a 4-year-old, has Down syndrome. He absolutely adores the family's dog, Slimer. And of course, he demands that Slimer is present for certain activities. So, for example, not taking a bath unless Slimer is in the bathroom, not going to bed unless Slimer's in bed with him, those kind of things. He goes to preschool where he receives special education services, including PT, OT, and speech. Both Blake as well as both Blake's school as well as his parents are working on toilet training. And of course, now the family really has to watch Blake very closely because Blake is trying to potty train Slimer. So, as support coordinators, what questions would you be asking Blake and his family, and what services, supports, and or activities would you be talking about? So, and for those of you that are unfamiliar how I do this, I don't move on until I find at least a couple of comments in the chat box. Okay, I see one comment. So, um, somebody mentioned, okay, a service dog. And then of course, somebody else mentioned interested in therapy involving animals. Good thing. So again, kind of taking a step back, 4-year-old, what things do typical 4-year-olds experience? What things do they do at home? So as a support coordinator, I'm probably going to be asking, hey, does Blake have any chores? If Blake really loves Slimer, is Blake having to take care of Slimer? Maybe making sure that Slimer has food, making sure that Slimer has water, maybe making sure Slimer gets outside to go use the bathroom. Maybe even taking walks with Slimer. So, um, you know, Blake is in school. So I'd be looking at, okay, what kinds of things does Blake do during the day at school? Are there responsibilities that Blake has at school, such as being responsible for cleaning up a certain area, um, or doing anything in the classroom like that? Uh, it might be looking at, hey, Blake, what do you want to be when you grow up? Um, ah, so somebody else, what level of supports does he need right now? Is he needing personal assistance? Is he needing ABA? Um, those kind of therapies. So what kind of responsibilities does he have with a dog? Um, talking about the difference between a dog and a human. So volunteering, kind of understanding the different jobs involving animals. So being a vet, working in a vet's office. Um, so potty training steps or process. So lots of good things that you're thinking of. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So now we're going to talk about elementary age children. And what you can see on your screen is now we're kind of building upon the things that we started out with the preschool age. So elementary school age, there's an increasing of responsibility. So preschool age children typically are responsible for their own selves, putting away their own toys after they're done playing with it, picking up after themselves. Well, as that child ages, now there's maybe household responsibilities, such as taking out the trash, clearing the table after dinner. Um, some families may even provide their elementary school age children with an allowance. So you help out, you do these chores, and you get this money in return. So, again, elementary school age, building upon. So preschool agers, you know, somewhat expected to kind of help out with getting dressed, but maybe not having to do it all on their own or independently. However, as that child ages, so elementary school, the older the child becomes, the more we expect that they're getting dressed on their own. They're performing hygiene tasks independently as they're able to. A little less supervision. So preschool age parents may have been keeping a very close eye on their kids, especially with Blake and the potty training. Those parents probably knew exactly where Blake was at all times and what Blake was doing. Whereas as that child ages, typically parents are going to be in the vicinity, they're going to be around, but they may not have their eyes on their child every minute of the day. So they might be doing some check-ins, making sure, okay, where is my child? What is my child doing? Okay, now I'm going to go back to what I'm doing. Again, kind of setting those expectations, trying new things. Also, in elementary school, we start seeing a lot more conversations around career days and what adults do for a living. So kind of setting the stage that, hey, you're a child now, but you're eventually going to become an adult. Let's teach you about the opportunities, the options, what's out there that adults do, and help introduce you to adult roles. So again, you kind of talking about decision making. So elementary age individuals might have more opportunities to even choose their own choices. So now being able to make a decision and not being presented, okay, here's your choices. So, you know, they might have more say about when they do a chore. And again, kind of finding their own voice. Interpersonally, there's more activities with friends. There's more game playing, so that give and take interaction. So being able to participate in school programs, daycare activities, community groups. So again, school kind of expanding. So learning those basic skills, that reading, that writing, math, having more responsibility for one's belongings as well as school property, more independence to navigate the school environment by themselves, exposure to different careers. So again, more choices, more opportunities to make decisions, more freedom to solve dispute among classmates, participating in more team activities. So as support coordinators, we want to make sure that we're empowering families to increase expectations, to have set chores, to have expectations of their children, providing resources with developing those basic skills if that child is struggling. Talking about generic workplace skills needed to be successful in employment. As support coordinators, we might be involving that youth more actively in their ISP development. Again, we want to reassure families to offer more opportunities to have that youth make decisions, asking more details about what they want to be when they grow up and why. And then, of course, connecting the family to those opportunities for social and recreational activities. And again, not just focusing on social and recreational activities for individuals with disabilities, but looking at the whole community, what's naturally available. Providing family with needed resources to access those opportunities. And also talking about those interpersonal skills that are needed for employment. So again, kind of providing that basis. So now let's practice with Aiden. Aiden is 10 years old and loves being on the computer. He mainly spends his time watching videos. He loves anything Marvel and or DC Comics. Aiden does not like to talk and will avoid verbal communication as much as possible. When he does talk, it's in as few words as possible. So half of his day is in a regular education classroom, and then the other half is in that special education. So when he's in regular education, he has a paraprofessional that provides assistance as needed. He receives PT, OT, and speech at school, and he also receives therapies outside of school, so both aqua and equine therapy. So question for you guys, what questions would you be asking of Aiden and his family? And what services, supports, or activities would you be talking about? More? Okay. Um, Asking about his roles and responsibilities, like chores. Okay. Any other suggestions, ideas? Ooh, are there social skills or groups that he could join that have a common interest of Marvel comics? So yeah, kind of looking at, are there any groups for kids that have an interest in Marvel or DC comics? And can Aiden join those groups? The last session or the last group I had, somebody was noticed that, okay, Aiden doesn't like to talk that much, so does he have an iPad or a smartphone? Um, does he use technology at all for communication? So kind of also looking at that, what technology somebody might be using. So I'm going to keep moving because I see we're getting close to half hour. So, all right. So now let's talk about middle school. So again, middle school, we're building upon what we had for elementary school age. So again, expanding those responsibilities, having to do chores without reminders. Middle school, some of us started to have some exposure to entrepreneurial type of activities, such as lawn mowing or car washing, or, pet sitting or babysitting. So some of us, you know, starting around 12, 13, 14 years of age, we started getting some exposure with doing things for a little bit of cash in our neighborhood. So again, kind of that typical experience of individuals that age, are we asking, hey, do you do anything like that? Have you done any pet sitting? Being left at home for short periods of time, maybe a couple of hours at the most, or maybe it's only 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Being able to try new things, gaining more exposure to potential careers based on interest and abilities. Again, volunteering, um, in concession stands or picking up gyms and fields after, youth activities. School advocacy. So middle school, you might have a school council, less supervision around peers. Um, you know, Individuals in that middle school age might be having to help out more with developing the shopping list, and determining what needs to be bought. They might be having more experience with making purchases independently, so being able to use their earned money at stores. Having to safely cross the street. Um, Again, kind of finding more of their voice and appropriate expression of themselves. So in school, you see them traveling independently to classes. There's more responsibility for taking care of themselves. In middle school, we might see that students are having more of an active role in their IEPs. Having more freedom of being able to choose where to sit, who to sit by for lunch, and even some choices at what classes they want to take. So after school clubs, um, even possibly being a manager in a sports team. As a support coordinator, we want to encourage parents to increase those opportunities for their youth to be left alone for short periods, encouraging parents to utilize natural consequences as teaching opportunities. So promoting that increasing expectations with chores, fostering those entrepreneurial experiences, having that youth get to know their own community, encouraging more input in the ISPs, maybe even doing some online personality questionnaires, definitely asking them what they want to be, why, tying employment opportunities to interest and abilities. So, and again, kind of linking them to available community resources, events, um, talking about cell phone, um, using cell phones. So gaining some more experience in that technology and having some responsibility there. School advocacy, encouraging that participation in after school clubs or other groups based on the person's interests. So now let's practice. Lucy is 12 years old. She loves fashion and animals. She is currently in the 6th grade and receives PT, OT, and speech therapy while in school. When in the regular education setting, she has a paraprofessional available to assist her as needed. She also receives additional therapies outside of school, like your aqua and equine therapy. So again, what kinds of things of a 12-year-old should we be asking? What questions would we be asking, and what services and supports or activities would we be talking about? So I'm seeing some things. So, okay, looking at, hey, can we reduce the para support? So something to keep in mind too, when we're thinking about future employment, if we're advocating that they have a paraprofessional with them the whole time that they're in school up until they graduate, could we potentially be causing a gap there that, okay, now we're going to be talking about employment. So again, kind of looking at how, can we increase some independence at school? So asking about parts of fashion, does she like? Uh, so does she like to draw? So, looking at Girl Scouts, school clubs. So what does she do when she's at that equine therapy? So what kinds of activities, what kind of responsibilities does she have with animals? So good things. So fashion camps or art classes. Can she volunteer at an animal shelter? What are her chores at home? So good questions. All right, let's move on. So now let's talk about the preparing for work. So a lot of times when individuals are in that high school, they are in that preparing to work category. They're looking at entering the workforce in a couple of years. So for those individuals that are in that stage of getting ready to enter the workforce in the next year or two, we want to make sure that we're connecting the individual to programs that's going to help develop those needed skills. So looking at what's available in the school, each of the schools have pre-employment transition specialist, or they have access, I should say. They have access to what's called pre-employment transition specialists that work out of MU Hook Center. So kind of asking, hey, do you have a pre-employment transition specialist that you work with? What kinds of things are you working on with your pre-employment transition specialist? Looking at what programs schools provide or what experiences school provides. So some schools will do community-based employment opportunities. So they will take youth out into the community at different job sites, having individuals kind of experience. So doing some job shadowing and even some light job duties just to gain some experience there. Some schools may do it more in-house, so they might have individuals job shadow and do work activities that are there on the school grounds. So it might be working in the cafeteria or working in the office, or working with the janitorial crew or something like that. It might even be doing kind of a business within the school. So some schools have developed like a cafe that operates before school or during the lunch hour or after school. So it might be looking at, okay, do you have anything with that school business? Some schools might participate in a project search program, which again, project search is basically that community-based experience, but all the time at that host business. So instead of that youth coming to school at the high school, they might be going to that host business for the days that they would be going to school and during that whole time. So instead of spending 7 hours at school, it'd be 7 hours at that host business. Some schools might call it something different, so they may not call it a project search. They may call it something different. I know in special school district, they have what's called their vocational site program. It's basically, again, kind of same thing where students will spend their time at a host site, and that will be their school day. They have a classroom at that host site that they do their academic studies when they're not doing the work. So Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act youth program. So each of the job centers offers some kind of youth program for individuals 16 to 24. It might be some kind of summer work experience program. So depending on the Senate Bill 40 board, I know some Senate Bill 40 boards might fund a summer employment program. So for example, in the St. Louis area, we have STEP and SWEP programs that are funded by our Senate Bill 40 boards. Not all Senate Bill 40 boards are able to fund a summer youth program, so you might be having to look outside of that. VR does have a summer youth employment program that is statewide for juniors in high school. So there's also Youth Build. SPICY stands for Summer or State Parks Youth Corps. So that might be something to also look up is, are there any kind of youth employment opportunities at the state parks or museums around your area? So of course, pre-vocational programs. So some might be funded by their Senate Bill 40 boards, but we also have waiver funded as well. And then also in this age group, you want to be making sure that you're assessing where that individual may need more assistance. Do they need more assistance with that soft skill development, or do they need more experience gaining some work experience and kind of understanding about the different options available when we think of work, and gaining some hard skills? So again, taking a look at this document, high school, this is where we wrap it up. So again, building upon everything from before. So now high school, we're taking that expectation and we're taking it up just a little bit more. So if you think about it, as far as independence. So preschool, you're expected to take care of yourself. Elementary school, now you're expected to help out with family chores. Middle school, you're kind of expected to remember to do it on your own, maybe. And now high school, maybe the increase there is anticipating the needs of others. So noticing that mom's coming in with the groceries, oh, mom might need help bringing in more groceries. So again, kind of that expectation that as high schoolers, you're expected to be a little bit more independent. So maybe doing chores without reminders, including being able to wake up for school on time on your own, being expected to remember your own schedule, being able to explore that community independently, having more choices with decision making. So getting to choose what you want to eat for meals. Maybe even, getting to decide, well, do you want to eat what the family's eating, or do you want to fix yourself something else? Being able to take more of an active role in one's IEP, having more choices in determining which classes to take. Being able to have more clubs to participate, more after school clubs, having more responsibilities in running or managing an after school club. So now it's not just participating, but it's maybe you're in charge of the after school club. More opportunities to negotiate with others. So as support coordinators, we want to be mindful of where somebody is and making referrals to vocational rehabilitation if needed, connecting them or their school, asking about pre-employment transition specialists, connecting them with that, connecting them with those summer employment opportunities, encouraging that career choice mapping, encouraging individuals to participate in mock interviews, getting some experience with good handshaking etiquette, promoting those job clubs. We also want to be making sure that we're encouraging that individual to have more participation in their ISP meetings. So even monitoring or quarterly visits. So as support coordinators, there may be some quarters that we want to touch base with that youth and ask for that youth's input in that quarterly review. So talking about supported decision making. So talking about that transition planning. So helping those youth kind of prepare for life after high school and linking and connecting them to leadership activities or summer camps. So let's practice now. Missy is 17 years of age. She loves children and often talks about how she wants to be a teacher. She spends the majority of her day in a self-contained classroom that follows a functional curriculum. She's able to recognize some sight words. She can tell time with a digital clock, but not an analog clock. She is able to recognize that 4 quarters equal $1, but she can't count change. She's also able to tell that $1 bill, but she has difficulty if other denominations are included. So if you have a 1 and a 5, she's going to tell you you've got $2. Same thing with change. So she knows a dime equals 10 cents and a nickel equals 5 cents. But if you give her a dime, a nickel, and a quarter, and a penny, she's going to tell you you've got 4 cents. So with Missy, what kind of questions would you be asking? And what services, supports, or activities would you be talking about? It's, yeah. I mean, it might be even kind of looking at, hey, has she ever, does she know somebody that teaches that can tell her, what you have to be able to do to be a teacher? Um, being camp counselor job, working on those money skills, debit skills with a debit cards with a limit. So all some good kind of things. So again, she's 17 years of age. She is now in that working age. So what does she do in the summers? Can we get her connected with a paid work experience? Maybe being an aide at a daycare, or something like that. Kind of getting some exposure to some different jobs and what the requirements are. Maybe even doing some exploration around that. So maybe connecting her with career planning and doing some career exploration type jobs. So I'm going to keep moving because of time. So looking for work. When somebody is definitely committed to, now they're trying to find a job, we want to make sure that we're assisting individuals in that effort, assisting them with identifying their strengths and interests, helping them identify their circle of support that those individuals can then be used in problem solving barriers that come up, maybe transportation issues, could also be used to help them find those hidden jobs. So we know that about 70% of jobs are never advertised. So helping them to find out all those different jobs that you won't see in the want ads, or see a help wanted sign or anything like that. Of course, don't overlook the bonus of volunteering. So it can help individuals gain experience. It can connect people to others in their network who could then help. It can even open a door to paid work. I have heard numerous stories recently of people who were volunteering and got offered jobs right on the site that they were volunteering. So again, that can really help individuals with connecting them to what paid employment. If they need additional support, connecting them to VR, if that would be appropriate. It could be connecting them to other employment related supports that aren't funded through the DD system. So connecting them with the job centers. Jobs for Life and Connections to Success, they are two specific programs that help individuals kind of learn how to do those job seeking activities. So learning how to do that elevator speech, or learning how to craft a resume, how to answer interview questions. So of course, employment networking groups do the same kind of thing. So individuals come together, they share tips, strategies, kind of helping with that job seeking process. If needed, requesting job development under the waiver funding. So if somebody's not able to utilize VR, they're not eligible for VR, or VR has said, hey, we can't help them anymore, maybe utilizing job development under waiver funding to help that person then get connected to that paid employment. So let's practice. Mike is 20 years old. During high school, he got experience working in the high school cafeteria. He is able to prep and cook food, receive inventory, stock items, clean dishes, and work a cash register. He loves sports and would like to work someplace where he could talk sports with others or even watch games. He does not drive, and his parents both work full-time jobs, which prevents them from driving him to and from work during their work hours. So what questions would you be asking, and what services, supports, or activities would you be talking about? So is there a neighborhood bar or restaurant that he can work out? Does Mike know how to use public transportation? Awesome. So one thing I want to caution, as support coordinators, we are not to be acting as job developers. So we're not necessarily having to connect that person to the paid employment. It's connecting him to the services and supports that would help him get that. So kind of assessing, hey, Mike, do you need help with completing applications? Do you need help with learning how to interview? You know, so kind of assessing what kind of assistance might need with those job seeking activities. And then if needed, connecting him with either VR or even job development under our waiver funding to help him get that assistance needed to get that job. So as support coordinators, like I said, assessing what kind of assistance he needs in the process of getting a job. It might also be helping him identify who does he know, and does he know anyone who can help him? Does he know somebody that works at a sports bar? Or in kind of things, you know, kind of looking at those interests, you know, ticket taker at a sporting event. As far as that transportation, so I love that somebody kind of picked up on that transportation barrier. So this is one, as support coordinators, you know, maybe we're using DB 101 and we're helping Mike identify transportation options that he can utilize. And okay, how are you going to be able to afford this? You know, are you going to have to set aside some work income? So as you start earning money, are you going to have to start putting some money aside to help pay for your transportation needed for you to get to and from work? Again, kind of like the question, can he use public transportation? Is public transportation available? So yeah, so now I see a couple people talking about public transportation, bus training needed. Kind of looking at, okay, can you work in the evenings or weekends when mom and dad might be able to cover transportation? So, all right. So now when somebody's working, as we mentioned earlier, it doesn't stop there. So just like us, we continually assess our satisfaction in our employment. We need to be making sure that we're doing that with the individuals we support, that we're continuing to monitor their satisfaction and their needed supports. Things change, you know, it might be under one supervisor, they didn't need any extra supports. They were doing great, but then when that supervisor left, now things aren't working as good. Maybe they're needing some more supports in that job. We want to continue assess those vocational goals and help them with that. So, and then we want to coordinate those additional supports whenever needed. So if we're hearing from the person that they're ready to start seeking that next job, so they're currently working and that's going good, but they're wanting to move up, they're wanting a different job, but they need help with getting that job. Are we connecting them with VR? If we're hearing that something has changed, that they're needing more supports on the job than what they were needing before, are we requesting that supported employment for that retention assistance? Are we utilizing job centers or higher education that might be needed to help them? So job centers, a lot of them have information about apprenticeships, you know, higher education, again, helping individuals connect to those programs to gain those hard skills for being able to advance in careers. It may also be looking at those non-employment related supports that a person might need: transportation, personal assistance, behavioral support. So again, kind of looking at what support they might need that might touch employment, but may not be specifically employment related. So, and then of course, helping to problem solve issues as they arise. So now let's practice. Jacob is currently working 12 hours per week as a dishwasher. He often expresses that he is not happy with this work and would prefer getting another job. When asked what he wants to do, he will talk about how he really wants to be a video game designer. He's able to read at the 4th grade level. However, his comprehension falls more down to the 2nd or 3rd grade level. His math skills are about a 6th grade level. When he's tried to get into college, he hasn't been successful because he hasn't been able to pass those basic math and comprehension skills needed for that college level. So he has taken some basic math and comprehension at the adult education learning, but still hasn't been able to progress into those entry college levels. So What questions would you be asking, and what services, supports, or activities would you be talking about? And let's see how quickly you can put a response in the chat. Okay. So I hear a comment about, maybe starting at a video game store where he can learn about the latest tech. Maybe a small tech firm could use a receptionist so that he could be around that type of environment. Ooh, what is it about being a video game designer that he is attracted to? What do they do? Does he understand that? So good question there. Maybe connecting him with Code Ninja or other gaming programs, tutors. What else besides video game design would he be interested in? So again, stressing that as support coordinators, we're not going to be connecting that person to the actual employment. We're going to be looking at what services or supports are needed. So kind of looking at, hey, does he need help finding that whatever is going to be that good job match? So do we need to go back to VR and maybe do that discovery and exploration process? Or, if VR is not able to assist him, can we be funding that career planning to really kind of identify what would make a good job match? Again, kind of looking at what supports he might need with that job searching activities. Do we need to eventually connect him with job development, whether it's through VR funding or it's through our funding? So and then, yeah, some people are pointing out, it's like, okay, if his interest really is in video game designing, does he have the skills? Do we need to connect him with programs or places where he can learn those skills to be able to get those kinds of jobs? So, all right, let's see. I'm going to try and let's do Tim. So Tim is 45. He has been in day half since getting out of school at 21 years of age. He loves helping people. Through his day half program, he volunteers weekly at a homeless shelter where he helps prepare and serve meals for those staying at the homeless shelter. He is very independent in these activities. He knows what needs to be done and gets right to work. So while he's volunteering, really all he's getting is oversight. So he's not needing any kind of support to do those activities. He does receive Social Security benefits based on his parents' work history. And whenever asked about working, Tim states that he doesn't want to work at all. When asked why he doesn't want to work, he states that he doesn't want to lose his benefits. His mother, who is his legal guardian, also expresses some doubt about Tim's ability to work. She's concerned that he could be taken advantage of and would not have much support available as what he currently is getting right now. So she's kind of afraid of what kind of supports he would have available. So what questions would you be asking, and what services, supports, or activities would you be talking about with Tim and his mother? So one good thing was, kind of asking what he likes about the shelter. So good one. Can we get another one? Ooh, how many hours could he work using Ticket to Work to keep benefits? So um, you know, maybe looking at benefits planning. Can we connect him with some education to learn about those options, how he can work and still maintain his benefits? Hearing that Tim is not really interested in employment, and the fact that his legal guardian is also unsure, I'm not sure that VR would be the best use right now. We might be looking at using career planning through us. So that was one of the comments in the chat box was, maybe connect with VR for discovery and exploration. But again, seeing how he's not really interested in exploring employment just yet. He's still kind of opposing it a little bit. Maybe we're doing career planning to help him see that, oh, I can work, I can keep my benefits, and oh, look, I can still help people. So, all right. So, and talking with the parent, letting the parent know that through job coaching, through supported employment, Tim could have a job coach so he can still receive that support that he needs in employment. Maybe also talking about the differences between competitive integrated employment and sheltered employment, especially when it comes to those support needs. So maybe even offering that up as an option. Finding good examples of successful people who did pretty good. So connecting the parent to others who have transitioned from dayhab to employment, or individuals with high support needs that are succeeding in employment. So I love that kind of using that peer-to-peer support. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to skip through these. So tools at your fingertips. So on our DMH website, if you go to dmh.mo.gov and click on developmental disabilities, then go down towards the bottom and click on community. Then you can click on employment. So that connects you with all the different tips and tools and resources that we have on our website with employment. As someone mentioned earlier, charting the life course tools. There are a number of different tools that charting the life course has for having discussions around employment. You have that trajectory, which can really take a look at what does somebody want? What does somebody want to achieve out of life? Where would they like to see themselves in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? And then what activities, what things do they need to be doing to have that more likely to happen? It can also help you to look at when you might be doing some supports or services that are taking a person away from that desired outcome, as in the example of having that paraprofessional. Sometimes that could be causing us to have a gap or a potential problem area. So looking at that integrated star really helps us to identify all the different resources that somebody might have access to help them achieve the goals they want to. Especially when we start talking about transportation as a barrier, kind of looking at those different resources somebody might have available to address their transportation issues. The more somebody has, the higher support needs someone has, the more we might want to be using kind of the vision tool with charting the life course, which really helps you to kind of see how everything is interrelated. So when you start talking about employment, you can't just talk about employment. You've got to talk about somebody's safety and security, or somebody's housing, or somebody's connections with other people, friendships, those kind of things. So that tool really helps you to see how they're kind of all interconnected, and how things in one area can affect other areas, to help you really coordinate the supports that are going to be needed to really help support a person. So, and then of course, with that benefits, just that education piece, DB 101 is a great resource to share with individuals and families. There's videos that help explain how working affects income. And then of course, there's more articles that they can go read if they want more information. So I thank you all for joining me today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is 636-926-1229. And you can also email me at sandy.kaiser, and that is spelled KEYSER @dmh.mo.gov. And I thank you all for joining me today. Have a good one. Bye-bye.